Hello everybody, and welcome to Tom-mageddon, a show where all different kinds of multimedia will meet their day of reckoning. I'm your host, Tom.
In a world where undead roam the countryside, and vampires stalk the city streets, looking for their next victim, only one man can stand against them. Only one has what it takes to defeat Dracula. Ahem!
Right, getting down to business. Lots to do, vampires to slay, people to save. If you've been following my channel, then it should come as no surprise to you that I love Castlevania. My second video was a review of the original title, and today we're going to talk about the sequel, Castlevania II: Simon's Quest. It was designed by Konami's Hitoshi Akamatsu, the guy behind the original, and who would also go on to design Castlevania III. It saw its US release on the NES in December of 1988. It really broke the mold at the time, taking the original linear platformer and adding RPG elements and an explorable world map. The game is, well, I'm not entirely sure how I feel about it. It's a bit of an odd duck. So let's jump right into it. We reprise the role of everyone's favorite sadist, Simon Belmont, as he seeks to break a curse laid upon him by Dracula. To break the curse, we need to find the 5 pieces of Dracula, hidden in the 5 separate mansions scattered throughout the countryside. Bring them together in the ruins of Dracula's castle, resurrect Dracula, then kick his ass once and for all. You know, I feel like there's a lot that could go wrong with this plan. Like, for instance, what if our curse-riddled ass isn't up to the task of defeating Dracula? Then by resurrecting him, we've just unleashed a man capable of making death itself bow to his will upon an unsuspecting populace. I mean, hey, maybe we should just take one for the team? Let the curse run its course and leave Dracula's corpse bits scattered to the winds. But fuck that self-sacrifice shit, I'm sure it'll be fine! The gameplay is pretty similar to the original. We've got our 2 buttons, jump and whip it! Whip it good! If you hold up on the D-pad and hit the attack button, you use whichever secondary weapon is equipped. That's one of the differences in this game. In the original, we were stuck with whichever secondary item we happened to pick up last. In Simon's Quest, as we progress through the game, we gather more of the secondary items, which are kept in an inventory list accessed with the start button. From there, we can switch between them whenever we want. Secondary weapons include the dagger, the silver knife, and the golden knife. They all do the same thing really, they just get more powerful as you go along. In the first town, we can buy the holy water, which breaks certain blocks and damages enemies it hits. There's the Sacred Flame, which functions much like the holy water, but it also creates a pillar of fire that damages anything that walks through it. There's also the Diamond, a new item from this game. It's most effective inside because it bounces off surfaces and damages anything it touches. There are also 3 consumable items in this game. The Garlic, which can function as a mostly useless weapon, but it's great for trading with random dudes in graveyards. The Laurel Leaves, which can make you invincible for 10 seconds. And the Oak Stakes, which are only really good to retrieve the pieces of Dracula. Other than that, they're completely useless. Dracula's bits have different effects as well. His rib gives you a shield, for some reason. His eye lets you see hidden items. His heart does nothing except impress the ferryman so you can reach one of the mansions. Drac's fingernail lets you break blocks with your whip. And Dracula's ring lets you into his castle. Hold on a sec. One of these things is not like the other! The whip upgrades work a little differently too. Instead of picking them up randomly by breaking torches, you purchase them in towns, and rather than lose them when you die, they're permanent. You get the regular whip, the thorn whip, the chain whip, the morning star, and the fire whip. Thought this thing was dangerous? Try setting that shit on fire! Unclean spirit, begone! Oh, hearts are back too. They still function as ammunition, but they also have another use now. Know what it is? Did you say health? 'Cause you're wrong! Don't be silly! They double as money! Man, I really need some garlic. Hope I brought enough! So towns. Towns are a thing now. In Castlevania II, there are a number of different towns. They're called Jova, Veros, Alba, Andal, Dorina, and Yomi. They're peopled with merchants who sell you many of the items available in this game, and random people wandering the streets who are all completely full of shit. In most games, NPCs give you hints. They help you find out where to go and what to do. But not these guys! Nah, these shitheads are trying to tell me that the invulnerability item is only good as an ingredient for soup! Or that I should smash my head off of Denver Cliff! I don't even know where the fuck that is! This one guy tells me, hey, the sacred flame is on top of the 6th tree out in the forest. Better go find it! So I spend about 20 minutes in the forest fucking around at the base of this tree. I tried whipping it, I tried using random items on it, I tried other trees because I thought maybe I had miscounted. Do you know where the sacred flame was? Under a rock in a fucking cave! When they're not downright liars, they're completely useless.
Clues to Dracula's riddle are in the town of Alba. Oh, good. I have just one question.
The fuck is that? I don't know where anything is or what it's supposed to be called. I feel like to figure half this shit out, I would need some kind of town map. I mean, maybe there was one in the game manual, but I wouldn't know, because the copy I have didn't come with the box or the fucking manual. To my knowledge, there's only one genuinely helpful NPC in the entirety of this game. This guy. That is actually an honest-to-goodness, real-life, viable fucking hint! You see, in the first level, there's an invisible platform, and to see it, you need the white crystal. This guy wins! When I inevitably snap and go on a mad whipping spree, this man will be spared! Well, okay, him and maybe the priests that heal you at the churches, they're okay too. You see, one of the real problems with this game is its absolutely balls-tastic conveyance, and the fact that half the NPCs are outright liars doesn't help in the slightest. You see, there's this part where you come across a lake. You can't jump across it. No hidden platforms. Well, shit. What do I do? Then I remember something a villager told me. The ferryman likes garlic. So I start dumping garlic in the lake, waiting for this ferryman to arrive. Never happens. Well, fuck! What do I do now? Do you want to know? Is your body ready for knowledge? I don't think it is. So get this shit. What you have to do is go to this town, find a random dude in gray, trade your white crystal to him for a blue one, then with the blue crystal equipped, press down on the D-pad so you're kneeling directly on the bank. And I do mean directly. For about 5 seconds to reveal a hidden path under the lake. No one, and I mean no one, would think to do this on their own. There's no possible way to figure this out, unless you somehow manage to fumble into it and get really lucky. Imagine playing this game back in the 80s, long before the days of readily accessible internet and game facts. You're playing along, having a grand old time, then suddenly, BAM! Here's this lake with no way to progress further. You try everything you can think of, throwing items, whipping around, jumping. Nothing works. So you spend hours backtracking through the entire map, thinking there must be something you've missed, but there's not. Guess your ass is stuck forever. Unless, of course, you were to buy the latest issue of Nintendo Power containing the Castlevania 2 strategy guide. This isn't the only time this happens either. Remember the kind gentleman who told me to go and headbutt a cliffside? Yeah, what you're actually supposed to do is trade the blue crystal for a red one, kneel down in front of the cliff, summon a fucking tornado, and ride that bitch to victory! You might think I'm joking, but that is legitimately the solution. Most of the difficulty in this game comes in the form of trying to figure out what the hell you're doing. Since as long as you have the latest whip upgrade, enemies die in 1 or 2 hits. There seems to be a much larger variety of enemies as opposed to the original, with dogs, wolfmen, 2 kinds of zombies, harpies, spiders, eagles, fishmen, blobs, fire-breathing plants, medusa heads, flaming skulls, etc. However, those are all few and far between. A good 80% of the enemies you'll encounter will all be skeletons. The same skeletons, with just a slightly different coloration depending on what level you're on. There doesn't seem to be all that much in the way of challenge, especially when compared to the other games in the series. Honestly, the vast majority of times I died in this game were due to environmental hazards and me being an idiot. Fuck! Fuck! Ah, fuck! Shit! Damn it! Ah! Fuck! Ass! Even the bosses seem a little lackluster. There are only 3, and there's not much to them. You fight Death, much like in the first game, but this time he only throws 1 scythe at a time, and since you can consciously choose which secondary weapon you use, you just whip out the one he's weak to and thrash him. There's a giant floating mask that spits fireballs and spins in a circle. Woo! And Dracula himself you can beat before he even has a chance to get moving if you just start chucking golden knives at him. So here's something I find kind of funny. So I beat the game. I thrash Dracula with the golden knives before he even has a chance to move, the game ends, and the prologue plays. The narration says that though the battle between Simon and Dracula may be over, Simon succumbs to his fatal wounds. What? What wounds? Dracula never even touched me! Unless... Of course! I always knew this day would come, when years of unhealthy eating habits would lead to Simon's demise. Farewell, my friend. You died as you lived, riddled with type 2 diabetes. Alright, joking aside, this game actually has multiple endings. And the ending you get is based on how many in-game days it took you to complete the game. If you do it in 8 or less, you get a good ending where Simon lives. I have no clue how long it took me, but it was probably ages. While I'm on the topic of the day and night cycle, did you think I forgot? It's absolutely infuriating. First off, every time the sun sets or rises, it flashes a text box in the corner of the screen, and everything freezes in place. It's jarring, and it pulls you right out of the action, because it will even freeze you in mid-swing if you're fighting off enemies. It might not have been so bad if it didn't happen every couple of minutes. And the timing was always particularly abysmal. More often than not, I would run into a town low on life and in desperate need of a church, when suddenly... fucking great! See, you can't enter buildings at night, so my plans of healing up went right out the window. Instead, I got to faff around town all night fighting these green zombies until the sun rose again. To be fair, I am the kind of man who likes to look on the bright side, so here's your silver lining to this absolute shitstorm. Everything in this game is fucking expensive. You need tons and tons of hearts to keep stocked up on the things you need. Hearts are dropped by defeating enemies, with stronger enemies dropping more hearts. Enemies all become stronger at night, and the green zombies that mill about towns are actually fairly strong but not at all difficult to kill. So you can take them down without much effort and they drop a decent amount of hearts. They also spawn like crazy. Whenever night hit, I would leg it for the nearest town and slaughter zombies until the sun came up. I would always have enough hearts to buy anything I needed with some to spare, the downside being, it's fucking boring! Spending each night cycle standing in place fucking up green dudes is not exactly entertaining, so it means spending a pretty good chunk, like 40% of your game, just grinding for hearts. So, what can I say about Castlevania II Simon's Quest? It's probably my least favorite game in the series. I appreciate the attempt to add more RPG elements like towns and NPCs, but making the vast majority of your NPCs compulsive liars in a game where finding out what you're supposed to be doing is already almost impossible, it's a pretty shit idea! You can also totally screw yourself really early on, to a point where the game becomes unplayable and you have to restart. You see, the world is pretty open, so you can reach this town before going to the first mansion. And if you speak to the man in gray, he exchanges your white crystal for a blue one, automatically. Whether or not you've been to the first mansion, that requires the white crystal. The day and night cycle is absolutely rage-inducing, and because of how expensive items are, you need to spend ages grinding hearts. While there's a variety of enemies, the interesting ones only appear in certain sections, leaving the vast majority of the game populated by the same bog-standard skeletons. The mansion levels are kind of fun, being reminiscent of the original games and all, but they're incredibly short. You go up some stairs, jump over a thing, talk to this dude, boom, done. If each mansion had a boss fight, they would have been much more interesting, but there are only 3 bosses in the game. They're all just terrible. I'm not particularly good at video games, and I could beat these guys with minimal effort. I guess what I'm trying to say here is, the game is boring. It has pretty much no real replayability outside of trying to see some of the other endings, but even then I imagine it's just text boxes over the static background, so even that isn't really worth it. Any interest I would have had in replaying it was destroyed by the day and night cycle, because I realized to take another run through this game means I would have to put up with that shit again, and I ain't having it! On the other hand, however, I'm glad I played it. It's an important stepping stone in the development of the Castlevania series as a whole, introducing new concepts that would appear in later titles, giving us some closure on the tale of the man who started it all, Simon Belmont. If you haven't played Simon's Quest, there's certainly value to picking it up and giving it a go, especially if you're a big fan of the series. If you've already played it, well, you've already experienced it all it has to offer. Unless you're feeling nostalgic, save yourself a headache. Anyway, I've been Tom, and thanks for watching Tom Again.